Hi, welcome to another Captain Cosplay tutorial. My name is Trail, and today we're making a custom Captain America helmet. First, I made my pattern. I covered one side of my mannequin head with spray adhesive, then covered it with a plastic bag. Then, I covered the bag with duct tape to reinforce the whole thing. Next, I drew the main seam, the eye hole, and the edge of my helmet onto my pattern. I cut through all of the edges and seam lines and pulled the pieces off of the head. I added a small triangular piece of duct tape to the back patterns so the helmet would curve out a bit. Then, I transferred all my patterns to paper. I made sure to include the hash marks that I had put on there while making the template so that I could line the edges up later when I actually glued the pieces of foam together. Then, I traced all of my pattern pieces onto 5mm craft foam. I usually use all one color when I'm constructing something, but the only full sheets I had were red, so that's what I cut the long pieces out of. Next, I used my heat gun to soften the foam and rounded the pieces out with a wiffle ball or my knee. I do this beforehand so that my pieces are already in shape, which also prevents edges from pulling as much while I'm gluing. I glued my pieces together with barge cement. I always use 2 coats on each edge to get the best hold. I started at the center seam and worked my way outward. The hash marks that I transferred earlier made it much easier to make sure everything was lined up properly as I was gluing it together. When I was done, the helmet was a bit too small, so I went to Office Depot and had my patterns resized. Then, after I cut them out, it was the exact same process. Tracing, cutting, heat forming, and this time, before I glued it together, I used a wood burner to make some undercuts to get some definition in the nose and eyebrows. Then I glued it together just like last time. The helmet from the first Avenger has a raised line along the top 2 seams, so I cut a very thin strip, maybe 3mm wide, out of 2mm craft foam. I used super glue to glue it in place, starting at the eye and moving towards the back. I carefully went over both edges of both strips with my rotary tool to round them out. Next, I cut the A piece out of 3mm craft foam and the wings out of 5mm craft foam. I glued the A onto the helmet with full surface-to-surface contact. The wings, however, were only glued at the very end so that they could stick out from the side of the helmet. I used the sanding bit on my rotary tool to replicate the scrapes and weathering from the movie helmet. These will show up a lot better when they've been painted. After that, I gave all of my exposed seams 2 layers of quick seal, with enough time to dry between each one. While I was waiting on that, I cut the pieces for the jaw strap and spray painted them brown. Next, I made a pattern for my chin piece. I cut out an inch-wide strip of 5mm craft foam for the middle piece. Then I cut out the top and bottom pieces, with one edge at an inward angle. I glued the pieces together and trimmed the excess from the middle piece. I heat formed it to get it to curve a bit more, then I sanded the edges to round them out. I took the helmet and the chin piece outside and gave them a few coats of plastic dip. Then I took the helmet and painted it blue. I used a blue satin spray paint, which turned out much better than I thought it would. Then I painted the chin piece brown. After that, I began taping the helmet around the A and the wings. I took it back outside and painted those areas with a flat, white spray paint. I used silver rub and buff for the weathering. I used a toothpick for the small, hard-to-reach areas, and a paintbrush to give a scratched look to larger areas. Next, I started to glue the jaw strap together. I glued the long strips to the chin piece, and then glued them to the helmet right behind the ear. Then I glued the short strips to the helmet in front of the ear, and then to the long strip. I tried the helmet on and the straps were too small, so I softened the hot glue and pulled everything apart. I cut new straps that were 8 inches long and 4 inches long, and repeated the process. These straps ended up fitting much better. After that, the helmet was done. gonna wrap up this tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to make your own Captain America helmet, there will be a link to my Etsy store in the description. You can pick up the templates for this helmet over there. If you enjoyed this video, then please leave a like and share it if you think you know someone else who would also enjoy this video. If you want to see future videos like this, then be sure to subscribe and hit the notification button so that you can see all future tutorials that come out. I'm also working on a few videos as I get ready for Planet Comic-Con here in Kansas City. Those will be out in a little while. And then after that, I am going to be releasing the long-awaited Red Hood cosplay airsoft video. So if you're interested in that, please make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Otherwise, thanks again so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.